There is likely a massive mistake happening right now that's making you look actually older than you are. Now, I've been fixing this exact problem for over 30 years as a professional hairstylist. But here is actually the crazy part. Most people think that styling creates the style, and that is simply not true. Even if you are amazing at styling your hair, if you don't know what I'm about to teach you, you're never gonna get the results that you actually want. So today, I'm gonna walk you through the 4 biggest mistakes that I see that could be aging you much faster, and more importantly, exactly what to do instead. Wait for it, because one of these is likely to completely change how you think about frizz. But first, let me show you a major mistake that's happening in salons everywhere. like a talk show host. Mistake number 1 is simply not avoiding the dreaded triangle. You might be thinking, what the heck is a triangle? Or you might be going, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel like if you got curly hair, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Curly hair simply has the tendency to get full at the bottom because the curls compound on themselves, and that actually makes it bigger at the bottom and seem flatter on the top. It's kind of like curly hair doesn't grow longer. First it grows out and then it gets longer. The problem with this is that having so much volume at the bottom is going to end up dragging your face and pulling your face down. See, wherever your hair is the fullest, that's where people's eye, when they look at you, tend to go. So if we want to look more youthful, we need to bring the attention up, not pull it down. So the fix here is simply removing the bulk from the bottom, but it's using strategic layering. So the mistake here is not allowing your hair to be layered in any way, because that's the concern that I constantly hear. I don't want to do layers because of X, Y, or Z. Here's the fact. Curly hair has a natural density, which means that you can get away with much more layering before it actually tends to look thin, unlike straight hair that can get thin, especially at the bottom, very quickly. Curly hair is just a different animal. So if you're nervous about layers, try this. Start with just the front, okay? Add longer bangs that blend into the length. That's gonna open up the shape, it's gonna create more movement, it's gonna give you something flattering when you pull your hair back, a little bit of pieces of softness, but it's gonna kind of dip your toe into the pond of layering without going fully layered in the back. Then once you get comfortable with that, then we move into layering it in the back, because as we'll talk about here pretty soon, is very, very, very important. Now, you can see this example in these photos right here. These are AI photos, okay? I get a lot of flack for using AI photos. The reason behind them is because it's exceptionally hard to find photos that show you exactly what I want to explain to you that I'm allowed to use in these videos. I can't just grab any photo I want from anywhere and just throw it in a video. Also, in this particular circumstance, I wanted to show you a photo that's the exact same person in all of these photos. It's gonna show you how exactly these shapes affect the face shape. So here in this first photo, you can see there's a lot of volume at the bottom. Okay, this is not layered, one length curly hair, and this is a very normal situation. It starts to get very wide at the bottom, just like we talked about. Now, if we layer that, this is what it could look like. See how much more bulk this removes out of the bottom? Because we're simply taking volume away from another area below the cheekbone. That creates the illusion there's more volume on the top. Now, the crazy thing here is though, if we actually did this in real life, you'd have more volume on the top as well because your hair would be lightened up. So not only would you get lack of volume on the sides to create that illusion of more volume on top, you'd actually get more literal volume on top, which would compound the benefits of this look. Now, if we go in here and actually add in some front layers, open this up a little bit more, which you should do, and you can see immediately how much more this opens up your face. Caveat to this, always do front layers before you do back layers. Never do back layers and then do front layers. I'm kind of showing you these photos a little bit backwards. This is just to kind of give you an example of what this would all look like. But you can clearly see how much this impacts the shape of her face, what we're accentuating, and most importantly, where your eye as a spectator travels. You start to look up towards your cheekbones and not down, so therefore it's lifting her face, not dragging her face. Did all that make sense? That was a lot, I know. But before we move on to mistake number 2, if you're getting value out of this, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. And more importantly, if you really like it, share it with all your friends. Legitimately, I know it actually does help though. So hitting that subscribe button and sharing this with your friends or commenting below, all of those things help me continue to make these videos for you. Fair? Fair. Now, mistake number 2 is thinking that the style actually creates the style. Okay, this builds on what we just talked about. And it's the belief that styling creates the style. Look, no matter how good you are at blow drying or diffusing your hair, if the shape was not cut into your hair first, you are never going to get the look you're trying to create. Unlike straight hair, wavy or curly hair needs the shape to be cut in because you're not manipulating it to create shape the same way you do with straight hair, right? So the mistake here is picking a style that you've seen in a magazine or online based solely on what's cute versus on what you want to do with your face shape, meaning what parts of your face shape you want to accentuate or take focus away from. Because that is going to dictate a lot of where the volume sits in the shape and how the shape is actually cut. So the fix here is to pull photos of stuff that you like and stuff that you don't like, but then explain to your stylist why you like them. And also be sure to explain to them what facial features you want to accentuate or what you want to draw attention away from. See, that information is going to help them determine how to layer your hair to create volume in the areas necessary to achieve exactly that. Use that information to create a style specifically for you. Because honestly, your job at home is not to force a style. Your job is to enhance the shape that was already cut into your hair. And here's the best part. When the cut has movement and balance, the hair looks alive and modern. It looks youthful. When it doesn't, the hair looks kind of heavy and dated, no matter how much style you put into it. That's where the layers come in. People get real mad about layers. Look, when you have the right cut, styling it becomes way easier because you're working with your hair instead of working against your hair. How many times have you tried to work against your curly hair? Guess what? Doesn't happen, does it? Curly hair does what curly hair wants to do. Look, that leads us to mistake number 3. Oh my God, I'm actually anxious to share this one. Saddle up, folks, because things are about to get interesting. There's no alcohol in this. There probably should be. Dry cutting hair. If you're unfamiliar with dry cutting, it's simply where a stylist will cut your hair when it's totally dry. Now, this may mean that you come into the salon with it styled and then they cut it without shampooing it, or that they actually shampoo it and style it, then after it's been styled and it's dry, then they actually cut it. I am not here to bash on any particular system or drying cutting in general, because absolutely they can work in certain circumstances. This is gonna be a hot take, and I'm likely gonna get some heat for this one. Here's my problem with it. When you style your curly hair at home, I want you to tell me, does it look exactly the same every single day? Be honest, do you get the same results day to day? Of course you don't, right? One day, you're gonna get more curl in one area, you're gonna get less in another area. The next day, you're gonna get more curl in the area that you got less curl in it the day before, and less curl in the same spot. And point is that each day is slightly a little bit different. Am I right? I know I'm right. The problem here is that dry cutting techniques rely on the assumption that however your hair is styled when it's being cut is basically how it's going to look every day. But what happens when your curls don't cooperate the same way tomorrow? How often do they actually cooperate? Yeah, the thing is, these techniques often don't have as much of a structure in the cutting process. It's just a bit less systematic, I guess you'd say, than say wetting your hair down, taking very clean sections, cutting and following a very specific sectioning pattern. Meaning it can be hard, if not impossible, to recreate the exact same cut every time. Don't get me wrong, cutting wet hair does absolutely have its challenges. Personally, I find it easier to deal with those problems and have repeatable steps that lead to similar results every time versus hoping that I can kind of get something similar to last time. Now, with all that said, I generally find the best approach is kind of a bit of both, where the foundation for the cut is done wet, and then after it's styled, if there's like some fine tuning and stuff like that that needs to be done, it can be done dry. Ultimately, after all of that, you really need to talk to your stylist, and you two can determine the best option, because honestly, they obviously know your hair way better than I do. But I do want you to really understand the process so that you can make the best decision for you. All right, but here is where it gets really interesting, because mistake number 4 is about to potentially change how you think about frizz. Mistake number 4 is thinking that a cut can cut out the frizz, all right? The idea that a specific haircut or cutting technique can somehow control frizz and curly hair, well, it's just a myth. Now, with that said, there is one time that I've seen a cutting technique potentially create frizz, and it's when it's done with a razor. I'll explain it. See, this is a razor, okay? You've probably seen this in the salon. It might terrify you because maybe somebody used it on you and it made your hair really frizzy. But this is not what made your hair frizzy. It's the way that this is used. Now, if you, let's say this is your hair, this is the roots, this is the ends, and you go like this and you razor it out, that wisps it away until it's basically nothing. Now those ends can kind of just flip around and get kind of crazy and end up looking kind of frizzy. There's another way that you can use this, which is to simply literally kind of cut it like this, where you're just kind of going straight at it and you're almost using this like you would use just straight shears. It's not really going to add any more frizz, so I wouldn't worry about it. All of that is just to tell you or explain cutting does not cause frizz, but it also does not fix frizz. And even then, it's dependent on the person and their specific hair that may or may not make that cause frizz. Now, I don't want to leave you with just that. So here is what will actually help you manage frizz during the drying process. And keep in mind, I'm gonna kind of give you this with a 30,000 foot view, if it makes sense. If you want to see a much more in-depth, detailed walkthrough process on how to style curly hair, comment below and let me know. So first of all, you're gonna get out of the shower, you're gonna towel out your hair. You want it still pretty wet. It doesn't need to be dripping wet, but definitely wet. And you want it to all be the same amount of dryness or wetness. So you want it to be equal moisture all the way around. Now is when you're going to take your product, whether it's a curl cream or a gel mousse or a mousse, and you're gonna work it through your hair from roots to ends. Okay, this is so important. When you get your hair dry, if you have areas that are beautiful, curl contained, clumpy the way you want it, and there's no frizz, and then over here, there is really weird frizz, and then right below that, there isn't frizz, and you can't figure out why it's so inconsistent, it's likely because you missed product in certain area. So you're getting the control in the area that you had the product, and you're missing it in the area that you didn't apply that product. So getting an equal amount of coverage is really important to the end result. Then this is absolutely the most important thing. When you're drying your hair, from the time that your hair is wet to the time that it is dry, everything that you do, it's either minimizing frizz or it's adding frizz. Period. Now, the misconception here is that there's something that you could do that lives in the middle, and it's not. If you are not actively minimizing the amount of frizz that you're adding to your hair, you are inherently adding frizz to your hair at the same time. First, you're gonna put those products in your hair, and then you're gonna scrunch to the side or move to the side or whatever you need to do to scrunch in the overall shape that you wanna see. Now, once you get basically the overall shape that you want, now you're gonna start drying your hair. You're not gonna wait to dry it, you're gonna start drying it right now, period. It's a full stop there. If you just take your blow dryer and you just do this, you are 1000% adding frizz, okay? This is a diffuser. It's just gonna go on the end of your dryer, like that, okay? I love these. I'm not getting sponsored to talk about this blow dryer in this video at all, but that is satisfying. This is why this is so important. This is simply breaking up the airflow so that it's not as strong coming out. So it's gonna minimize the amount of manipulation to your hair cuticle. Any bit of manipulation, that could be you touching it with your fingers, that could be air hitting it, that could be you driving to work with the window down. Any bit of manipulation is going to create frizz. If you're not trying to minimize that, then you are encouraging it. Did that make sense? I hope so. You're just gonna hold off to the side, you're gonna hold this blow dryer back, and you're just gonna let it dry. Then once your hair is totally dry, and I don't mean it feels hot, I mean it is cooled down and it is dry, then you can go in and you can actually scrunch up and break up those curls to get the soft overall feeling that you want. But depending on what product you're using, you might find that your hair gets either more crunchy or less crunchy. Either way, when you're scrunching it up, I like to use a little bit of oil in my hands. That helps to kind of maintain some of the softness that you're gonna get, but also give your hair a little bit of shine in certain areas as well, because you don't want one that's too heavy. You wanna make sure that you're using the right one, and I've got some linked in the description for you, as well as I have this blow dryer linked in the description. But putting a little bit in your hands and then scrunching your hands into it and breaking that up is gonna give you that soft, really, really nice curl with very little frizz and the overall look that you're looking for. See, this process is gonna help minimize frizz way more than any cut could ever possibly do. Because remember, we're not trying to cut the frizz out, we're simply preventing it from happening in the first place. So now you know some of the biggest mistakes that I see behind the chair, and more importantly, you know how to deal with them so that you won't have to worry about those in the future. And if you really liked this video, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I've been getting asked a lot for curly hair content, and I wanna create it, but the only way that I can create it is if enough people actually wanna see it. Because if it doesn't get clicked on, then YouTube doesn't share it, so it becomes really hard to make them. So if you really do like it, do me the favor, share it with your friends, comment below, let me know you love it. Do all the things that tell the algorithm that this is actually content worth me making so that I can make more for you. Sound good? Do we have a agreement there? Okay. I appreciate you. I'll see you right over here. So head on over. I'll catch you there. Thanks again. Bye. I got to be careful about what I do around you, Joseph, because it'll end up in the end.